Mr. Darryl David.
Mr. Speaker, sir, there was anticipation and even some trepidation in the lead-up to Budget 2022. Not only was this budget set against the backdrop of a COVID-19 Year 3, it was also set against rising global energy prices, increasing core inflation, the rising cost of living, and Europe on the brink of open conflict between Russia and Ukraine, which by now has become a grim and sober reality. And added to all this, of course, was the impending increase in the GST. The issue of the GST increase has been debated quite extensively in this House, and I understand that members have opposing views on whether the GST should not be increased. I believe it's fair to say that almost all members, if not all members of the House, would agree that more can and should be done for the less privileged in society, and those with more should contribute more. The fundamental question is, of course, how that more should be funded. Should we continue to draw more from the reserves? Should we significantly raise income tax and corporate tax? Should we base property taxes on property values? Should we tax the wealthy based on the value of their wealth portfolio? Should we use more of the NIRC? And if so, how much more? 60%, 70%, and so on. Now, these might very well be decisions that could be taken by either this government or governments of the future, but I would like to urge those governments to exercise caution because such decisions have to be part of a holistic, balanced, and diversified taxation policy that strikes a careful balance by considering the impact on all the various groups and stakeholders in our society. Let's not use a sledgehammer and swing away wildly when perhaps the discerning use of a chisel might be more appropriate. As such, I do understand the rationale behind the GST increase and commend the government for being sensitive in implementing the GST increase into stages in 2023 and 24, so that the immediate impact of the increase is not felt, and this will give everyone, both consumers and companies, time to prepare for the hike. To further soften the blow of the increase and to help Singaporean households cope with the increase in the cost of living, I'm also heartened to see that the government has rolled out many other schemes, such as the Enhanced Assurance Package with additional CDC vouchers and cash payout to eligible Singaporeans, Enhanced Permanent GST Voucher Scheme, and YouSave rebates, MediSave top-ups, and the addition of SNCC into the GSTV scheme. With these schemes, the net transference from the government to lower-income families and those who need it will increase from the current sum, and the impact of GST increase on lower-income families will not be felt for many years. I believe that this transference and these schemes are already quite seamless, and the effort for many of those who need it are quite minimal to access these schemes, and that would significantly thus reduce the impact of any bandwidth tax that was mentioned earlier by our colleague Mr. Leon Pereira in his speech. As I mentioned before, it's important to have a holistic taxation strategy, and it is commendable that the government is looking beyond GST as a revenue source and is also exploring other alternative sources of taxation revenue via other forms of progressive taxes, such as the increase in personal income tax for those with an annual income more than $500,000, and an increase in property tax for non-owner-occupied property and owner-occupied property with annual value more than $30,000. The revisions in the rate of these progressive taxes will help to ensure that the overall tax regime in Singapore remains resilient, with those with more means contributing more than those with less. Notice I said those with more, not those with a lot. So as long as I have more than you, I should be happy and willing to contribute to you. That's what I think we all should be aiming for. I'd like to shift the focus now to the next topic of my speech, Mr. Speaker, which is on healthcare and specifically men's mental health and well-being. I'm personally glad to hear that there will be an increase in healthcare spending, and a specific area of healthcare that I'm especially happy that the government is focusing on is mental wellness. This has been raised before by other members in this House. Mr. Speaker, COVID-19 has left an indelible mark on humanity and on our collective psyche. It has changed the way we utilize spaces, interact with each other, and how we build social relationships. The stress of having to live with the pandemic, the need to face medical unknowns related to the disease, the increase in contestation for living and working spaces, job and income insecurity, and having to constantly navigate the ever-changing COVID-19 management measures have left many of us physically exhausted, emotionally spent, and mentally drained. When we think about mental wellness, we have to understand that different groups of people have different mental wellness needs, as they can be affected by the same stresses differently. We recognize this, of course, when we look at mental wellness for the youth, mental wellness that affects seniors, postpartum depression when it comes to women who have just given birth, and so on. So rather than to treat mental wellness as a collective term, it'll just be beneficial for us to recognize that just like these other different segments of society, men are also affected very differently by stresses. In many societies today, some patriarchal beliefs continue to be commonly held by the majority of the population, and there are corresponding societal expectations of how men should behave in social settings. Men are still expected to be the head of the family, be the dominant breadwinner, to have the quote-unquote eye of the tiger by demonstrating strength and confidence, and to stare adversity in the face and to man up, take the fall when things go wrong. These expectations have inadvertently caused men to experience stresses that are different from those from other segments of our society. Ms. Portia Poe is one of the leading mental advocates for mental health, having founded Silver Ribbon way back in 2006. One of the nominees for Singaporean of the Year in 2021, Ms. Poe has done a lot to help those with mental illness in my Ang Mo Kio Hougang constituency, and she shares these strong views that more needs to be done for men's mental health. I had a chat with Ms. Poe lately, and according to her, men often tend to equate psychosomatic symptoms such as racing heart, digestive issues, or headaches as health issues, and seek help from physicians without realizing that these are common symptoms of depression. More worryingly, when depressed, men are more likely to engage in negative coping techniques such as alcoholism, which may, ironically, lead to other forms of health problems in the long run. During our sessions, says Ms. Poe, some male clients asked if it's okay for them to cry. We have to promote mental health among men more so that they feel comfortable to speak up about their struggles, unquote. And I thank Ms. Poe for her valuable inputs in my speech. Mr. Speaker, I wholeheartedly agree with Ms. Poe and have some suggestions that I hope that the government could consider to better promote mental health among men. I believe that we should go upstream to educate men about the importance of mental wellness and let them know that there are sources available to them when they need help. Could our secondary schools or tertiary institutions not develop dedicated resources and platforms to teach male students how to dispel traditionally toxic masculine stereotypes and encourage them to step forward and feel comfortable to speak up about their struggles and seek help? Could MINDEF consider running programs educating our NSS and soldiers about the importance of mental wellness and promote the idea that it's okay to seek help? It's okay to be not okay, to help them move away from the stereotype that you should shed blood and not tears because real men don't cry. I believe that having such mental wellness programs and demolishing archaic male stereotypes is not incompatible with training our soldiers to be tough and resilient. Making our young men better soldiers by making them more aware of their mental wellness also prepares them to be better men for the rest of their lives. I would also hope that the government can devote some resources to having more community-based platforms that specifically cater to men who are presently struggling with mental wellness. For example, one could start with mental well-being activities in community clubs and centers that cater to men, and perhaps this could evolve into dedicated, structured support group sessions that men could attend. The ultimate aim of this would be to destigmatize help-seeking behavior from men as signs of weakness by creating a more gender-neutral society and providing platforms where men and women feel comfortable to discuss mental wellness issues. Mr. Speaker, sir, there are those who have described this as a Robin Hood budget. That is, it takes from the rich to give to the poor. But to use that term is to draw lines of divisions between just what or who is rich and what or who is poor, and dishes out unhelpful labels that can only be divisive in our society. The heart of good governance is about creating a strong social compact. And this social compact is constantly evolving as our society progresses. And a key feature of our social compact is reflected in this budget, which signals that those of us who are blessed to have more should contribute more, and those of us who need more help should get the help that they need. Rather than reducing it to a blunt tool about simply taking from one group and giving to another, I see this budget more as reinforcing a uniquely Singaporean version of the noblesse oblige, where those are in positions of relative privilege and wealth, and I use the term relative again, Mr. Speaker, have the social duty and obligation to take care of those who have less. So it's not just about implementing a particular fiscal policy, it's about strengthening a societal philosophy. And it would be wonderful if this philosophy could permeate into every single Singaporean social consciousness, whereby, regardless of our income levels, we are willing to contribute not just our money, but also our time to those who need our help and assistance. Because that's what a family does, Mr. Speaker. Those who are stronger take care of those who are not as strong. Those who can help those who are trying. Those who have more help those who have less. Everyone does their part. And it's only by staying strong as one united Singaporean family that we are going to get through the economic and societal challenges of the years ahead. And with that, I end my speech in firm support of the budget. Thank you.
Order. I propose to take a break now. Suspend the sitting and we'll take the chair at 1:40 p.m. Order, order.